yeah, we're gonna record a video here about one of my favorite chapters, the Red Scorpions, which coincidentally enough feature very little red. And to do so, we start on a black primer, and we're gonna go straight with the airbrush here with Mechanicus Standard Base. So if you look at the lower pieces, you'll notice that in every like illustration they are very dark gray. But a lot of people paint them with a lighter tone of gray, so I don't know which one is kind of the preferred one. I like the darker tones, so we're maybe not gonna go super like deep with the highlights. We're gonna keep them dark enough gray. That's why I like using the black primer here, because we can leave a lot behind, and I know we have like a good transition here. So this is kind of interesting, and we don't really need to go deeper than this. And then all we want really is to add a couple of edge highlights. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to stay there. So we'll go with our Celestra gray, and we'll do edge highlights here. We could do them with the gray as well, with the Mechanicus Standard Gray, which is going to leave it darker. Let's do Mechanicus Standard Gray. Some people like it. I'm not the biggest fan of like edge highlighting every single edge on a mini. I think it's too much. But it does make for really crisp edges, which I'm much more in favor of. So this is, I'm pretty happy with this. Again, this is not, not going over the top. Now, one cool thing that we will do now is we are also going to highlight every single pouch on this thing. Because the pouches are really like not super like important. So we're going to just paint them gray for now. And you'll see we'll make this work later. It's going to look odd just a quick minute here, but for now we're going to paint them gray. So all these like shoulder plate trims, we're going to give them just a good coat of this Mechanicus Standard Gray. And I know now it looks a little bit off. Don't worry, we have a plan. And you can leave some of the airbrush and the black showing through on your little knee pad here. But you don't have to. You can just paint it with this gray entirely. Like so. So again, this is really gray, kind of a grayscale level. This is fine. We are fully ready with this. Next up, we are going to, let's do the silver right now. It's going to save us some time. So pick any dark silver that you like. I like Lead Belcher is pretty good. Gunmetal is pretty good. The new contrast paint silver from Army Painter is pretty good. Even though it's a contrast, it's not really. I'm just going to be careful around the areas that are going to stay gray. Now there's an actual there seems to be like a debate as to what color the eagle should be. Some people painted gold, some people painted black, some silver, and some wild cases are also red. So I think all of them are actually pretty fine here, and then depending on like which reference picture you're looking at, you're gonna get one of them. For the sake of like army painting and keeping things like rolling, I think doing it silver is fine because we're already using a bunch of silver, so we just don't need to get bogged down in details. Like so. So let's just finish the silver, I guess, because we're here. And we're just gonna give this a good shade with black here. I like thinned down Black Templar for this. I know it's a contrast, but if you don't tell, I won't tell. On this back piece here, you want to do one even coat. You don't really want to do like the full contrast treatment, because otherwise it's going to be messy. Boom. So we got our silver, and then once it dries, it's going to be a little bit more even and everything. But overall, this is pretty sweet, and then we can dry brush on top of it later. I like Incubite Darkness for this, just because it gives us like a different color than just gray. It's got kind of that rubbery color. So now we're kind of good to go, but it's a very, so far, you know, very bland, right? So what we're going to do next is we're going to take our Celestra Gray, and don't worry, we have a plan for everything we're doing. This is not completely random. So now using Celestra Gray, we can highlight everything that is not yet painted, right? So our little seal here. And then every other place, so for example, our little eagle over here, we're gonna... Now I'm assuming that you guys are seeing where we're heading with this. And now we get to the fun part where we get to introduce color into this miniature. So it's no longer just black and gray. So let's start with the red. There's very little of... Oh, I guess, wait. I lied. Classic. Classic. We'll do the eyes here. Okay, so first we'll start with our red here, and we're going to use Flesh Tear's Red Contrast Paint. And this is going to be essentially the eyes and the purity seal. We are not really looking into... And we do want to be extra careful. Here we go. So now we have, you know, red, and then you be sure to use the complete side, right? You have to paint all, like, the 3D aspect of it, because if we leave the side unpainted, it's gonna just look gray and weird. And these are two things we do not want to be, is gray and weird, right? Next up, we will take Skeleton Horde, and that's just for the purity seal. We don't have much else to do with it. And then we can do the pouches and stuff. So we're going to use Wildwood. So the brown parts of the two pouches in the back, and then the little grip on the gun. That's a good Wildwood situation. I like darker color here. If you want more, you know, vibrant color for this stuff, you can use Gore Grunta. But I think when we have a marine like this that's like darker colored with like yellow accents, we don't need to put much accent into the other colors. I think the yellow is gonna do the trick here. And that's why we did all this extra kind of work and highlights. So now we have like some texture in the brown. It's just not flat brown. Or even in the seal where it's just not like a flat color. Now we have like some good highlights and shading. And then lastly, the yellow, we're going to use Eon Den Yellow. It's a darker kind of one, but I like it because in most of the artwork, it's not like a super over the top like canary yellow. It's a darker yellow color, so I like that one. And the inside of the plate, at this point in time, I don't really care about. I mean, it can be whatever color it desires to be, because we're gonna repaint it. So if it looks messy, I know. I know. So now we have a couple of touch-ups to do before we move further into this. So the first one is now we're gonna take our Black Templar contrast paint, and our Black Templar is going to be just to touch up the cables and stuff to make them interesting. So a lot of this you would not even really need an airbrush. Now we have one, and so we're using it, but most of these you could have done entirely with a brush if you wanted to. I just like it speeds up the process a lot. That's what I like about it. Now we can take our silver, and we'll do a couple of extra touch-ups as well with the silver. And this is really where you can touch up this contrast color that we put on that was maybe a little bit too aggressive. Again, just to get something a little bit more vibrant in our miniature. And then kind of the finishing touches here would be the shoulder plates, which are black. We don't want this to mix with the yellow. So now we take our time, you know, we hold our breath, you stick your tongue out, you sacrifice a chicken if you have to. I don't know what kind of voodoo you need, but here you want to be meticulous. Some more freehand. We're not really scared of freehand, especially when it's just line, right? Again, this just makes our mini just this much more interesting. Even though it's a speed paint thing, it's not taking us too long. So for the chapter symbol, I highly recommend you get either a 3D printed one from like Etsy or whatever, or you buy decals, because no one wants to paint that. It's a white circle and a red scorpion in it. Nobody wants to freehand a red little scorpion. It is not a good use of your hobby time here. Like, this is not what you want to be doing with your life. There are better ways, and these ways are transfers or 3D printing them or something like this. And for the base, since these guys are from the Vraks narrative, we can paint them as a desert style. Can we remove? Is this guy glued on there? And you can paint this base like a lot of other colors would work. I like this like kind of desert or wasteland with it, because it's a darker miniature, so having like a really light base kind of centers it and makes it that much more interesting. The only color I would not go here is obviously gray or even yellow sand. Like I try to keep this. I tried to keep this color very neutral, not go too much into the yellow tones of sand that you can have sometimes, because we don't want to take away from the mini. We just want to complement it. Since we can go the extra mile here, we should do that. It's going to be interesting. So we're going to take our airbrush again, and we're just going to add a little bit of skeleton bone to it. Like so. Rinse this off real quick. So we can add a last layer of dry brush on the base, again, just to make it sand looking. Now for the side of the base here, you can go with black, which is kind of the popular choice, or you can come back with your brown color. I think brown makes it more natural and like smooth, but black is maybe more classic and it really centers the mini. So you can also, yeah, you can paint it black. It's not the end of the world. It's because it's gonna look good regardless. I think this one here is just a little bit more neutral, and it sticks with the theme of like a bright base and a darker mini. You know, even the haters here, I think, can agree that this miniature for about 30 minutes of work is pretty impressive. This is a 30-minute Space Marine, and if you have an army like this, it's, you know, you have nothing to be ashamed of.